marriage.
All right, babe. We are slowly getting to the end of your book.
Slowly.
Which means you're going to have to write a new book. So, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Can you get that done soon? This one, I see a theme. The last chapter, I believe, was Philippians 4:8.
It was.
For marriage. Well, this one is 1 Corinthians 13 for marriage. Now, if you don't know 1 Corinthians 13, then you probably haven't been part of the church for very long, or you haven't been to a wedding anytime recent. But it is used at weddings and for marriage already. So I'm curious, this is specifically for wives, not for marriage. It's the quote-unquote love chapter. I think 1 John 4 is the love chapter personally. But go ahead with 1 Corinthians 13.
Well, so obviously, like you say, it's always known as a love chapter. And
for good reason.
For good reason. And so it's a great chapter. So if you don't know the chapter in the Bible, you should go read 1 Corinthians 13.
You should stop and go read it real quick, and it would make a little bit more sense.
But so what I do in this chapter is I pretty much just go through a verse or a little portion of the chapter, and then I say it what I think that means for wives. So like the first verse says, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I'm become a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And so I said, well...
So you should sound like an angel every day?
That'd be great, wouldn't it?
Or a man?
I don't know about
Maybe
that.
Not take it too literally. Okay.
So I said, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and love not my husband, I am just making a lot of meaningless noise. And so I kind of go through the whole chapter and give my interpretation of what that means for wives. And I think, the take-home message of this chapter to me is that I feel like so often, as this chapter talks about in the Bible, we can do all these great things. We can give to the poor. We can give our bodies to be burned. We can do amazing things. I mean, so many women are willing to, we'll go and be a missionary. We'll go and, die for Christ. We'll go and do whatever. But it's like,
at least.
Well, right. It's easy to say. But then when it comes to, loving your husband when he's not very lovable, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I don't know if I could do that. And it's like, God isn't often asking us to do the big, to go live in a hut and not have, anything but rice to eat for the next 3 years. But he does ask us to love somebody who at times might irritate us, at times may not see things the same as we do. Right. And so that's where it gets difficult.
Well, that's where love is, right? Because you don't get any reward for loving someone that loves you. It's when you love someone who is difficult to love. Right. That's where love really shows itself. That's where charity comes in, where someone who is being very difficult, someone who is not so easy to get along with. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that could be your spouse.
Sometimes.
Hopefully not.
Unfortunately.
But, hopefully we can avoid some of that. But unfortunately, we live in a world where there is selfishness and there is people that are going through a lot of different things. And for whatever reason, maybe they're keeping it in, or maybe they're just struggling with something and they take it out on the closest people to them. And whether it's their wife or kids or their friends. And it's very unfortunate. How do we react to that reaction? Do we perpetuate the anger, the evil, the wicked, or do we choose love? And that is so easy to just bail and just say, I'm not going to deal with this, or just deal with it and be Christ-like. Christ loved people that didn't love him.
Right. Yes, he did.
Right. So, yeah.
Well, in the Bible, it talks about, though I have the gift of prophecy, and talk about different gifts. And I feel like so many women, especially, feel very gifted spiritually and so in tune with God. And we feel like, oh, I had this word from the Lord, or I had this, or I had that. And we put ourselves up there as being so high and mighty and so close to God. And yet, if that closeness to God doesn't reflect in the way that you treat your spouse, then you got nothing.
You got nothing. That's clear in 1 Corinthians 13.
Right. And
it's clear.
That is clear. And so I feel like, that's oftentimes, it's hard to swallow sometimes. You just think, well, of course I love God, but yet, this is really irritating me right now. And so I feel like this is where the rubber meets the road, and sometimes it's hard to live, but it's the truth.
We had a guy that was preaching this one time, and he took a pot or something, was just banging. It was very annoying. But to drive home the point, and imagine if we had a cymbal. I mean, if you have a kid that drums, you know this, but take a cymbal and just bang that cymbal, a clanging cymbal, and that's what it is. It's so irritating. No one can hear you. I had a youth pastor once say, I think it was my youth pastor, it doesn't matter. Someone said that I can't hear what you're saying because, now I just forgot it. It just snapped right out of my mind. But I can't hear what you're saying because your life is so loud or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard something like that. Or your actions are speaking so loud that I can't hear over your actions what you're actually saying.
Yeah, it's something like that. We totally butchered that, but you know what we're trying to get at. And that your actions and how you actually are actually very important. And what you say is extremely important. What you believe is important. We're not going to diminish that. But if you don't show any love, it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
All for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, love is what matters. And honestly, I mean, that's like in 1 John, maybe, where it says that they'll know we're Christians by the love that we have.
Places, but yeah.
And not only love that, it's so easy to love everybody out there who is not rubbing me the wrong way, but you have to love those that are closest to you first.
Yep.
So anyway, it's tough at times, but I feel like that's the greatest mirror. That's the greatest way to see, okay, where am I really? Can I love the people that are hardest to love?
Well, cool. Well, that's almost the third to last chapter, whatever it is. It's 1 Corinthians 13 if you're following along. And if you'd like to pick up a copy, you could pick up a copy because pretty soon it's not going to be on sale anymore. Okay, it will be. It's going to be for sale for a long time. So anyway, pick up a copy of the book.